Loading. Loading. Success.
I don't need to analyze. Every word that comes out is a lie. Make it look like it's so ice. You won't make it to the finish line. Now if you gotta know the truth was gonna let you go. You was fine, never mind, unpredictable. Fade eye of the calm, you ain't no one. You a star, blow it up like supernova. In the nighttime, hit my hotline. Sharing secrets, you wish really was about your life. Basic bullets, with no bullets. Does your wifey know you're begging for my notice?
Tonight is a special night for our family, according to my parents. We received invites to a fancy dinner party where a few important guests will be in attendance. The most important guest of all are the teenage boys who are the sons of Saturn's most prestigious royal guards, called the Pearlines. My parents, who had to flatter their way into getting 2 invites for themselves, ended up paying an expensive price to get a lucky 3rd invite for me as well. Once they found out who would be at the dinner party in detail, me attending was no discussion. Having their daughter catch the eye and marry anyone in relation to even serving our queen and king is a big deal. Saturn's royalty and those who serve the kingdom stay in a city on the other side of Saturn called Rashidi. It's a beautiful upscale city that only the lucky are allowed to live in. If you even want to visit that place, it's mandatory that you apply online for screening purposes. In order to become a citizen in the city of Saturn's royals, there are a strict set of rules that one must follow. You must either be a descendant of the royal bloodline, working within Rashidi, or be born into a family that already resides there. For outsiders like me, the only other option is to marry your way into Rashidi. My parents, having a daughter married to the son of a Pearline, will give them the hefty benefits they strive for. Being a Rashidi citizen means you get a nice home, a nice bank account, and your career ladder extends higher than ever before. Rashidi citizens also have a royal citizen's crest attached to their names and on their Saturn IDs. That crest opens many leisure doors not only on Saturn, but in the entire universe. My family isn't by any means poor, but my strict, hard-working parents have always been hungry for more success. We have an above-average livelihood, but as far as my mom is concerned, above average isn't good enough. It's an insult. For the past 5 minutes, I've been staring at myself in the mirror. I needed to give my elegant dinner outfit one last look over before I presented myself to my mother. The long-sleeved, white, flowy, teal dress that she chose for me drapes my body with grace and ease. The white crystal flower earrings that dangle from my ears cost a fortune, and the crystal necklace that delicately hangs from my necklace could pay someone's rent for a year. I examined the glowing pearl net encasing my braided hair in its high, neat bun. My mom clearly bought this with the Pearlines in mind. Seems a little too on the nose for me, but whatever. It's my mother's world. I'm just living in it. The only thing I wish I could add is some makeup, but my mom is absolutely against it. According to her, I can't dress my face until I'm an adult who can afford to pay for it on my own. I give my reflection a forced smirk. I should be excited about this night and how gorgeous I look, but I'm not. This is the first time my parents ever went all out for me like this, and it's only because I've become an investment. I lift and turn over my hand, signaling for the time to project out of my wrist reel. 3:30, it's time to go. If you didn't know, humans and ringers have what's called a reel embedded in their wrist and behind their ear. Instead of holding cell phones like in the past, we took it a step further and now have them installed in us. It does everything that a smartphone once did, and more. Suddenly, the familiar light smell of peppermint lavender grabs my attention. The scent that I've grown to hate slowly makes its way into my room, staining everything in proximity. With that, I knew I was no longer alone, and every muscle in my body immediately stiffens. I'm being watched by her.
Let's go, Cassidy. Our Sky-Axis chauffeur vehicle has arrived.
I turned to the sound of my mother's scratchy, cracked voice, finding her at my bedroom entrance. She's wearing a light purple evening gown and her gray hair is braided into a long side braid. Her galaxy stone chandelier earrings sparkle a purple and silver glow, and her matching necklace complements it. On her thin, wrinkled lips is a touch of pink lipstick, and on her aged face, as usual, is only a touch of makeup. She looks at me with disappointment before letting out a frustrated huff.
Why didn't you have the Orbot apply some lipstick? You look bland.
Silently confused, I glance at my face in the mirror before landing my eyes back on my mother. I didn't know if she wanted me to wear makeup or not. She usually doesn't let me.
Look at your dress and look at your jewelry. Why on earth would you not put something on your face? You're 16 years old. These kinds of things should be common sense by now.
Her words cause a hidden grit of my teeth as I slowly inhale. Is she serious? My mother then double taps her wrist with her finger. By doing so, she signaled the white hovering football-sized Orbot out of my closet. She gives it an order.
Apply my face makeup to Cassidy.
As she watches my makeup being applied, she steps more into the room and looks at me in the mirror's reflection.
Do you remember what we went over?
I nod my head. Yes. Smile, engage, and laugh lightly. Everything I say should be an extended grapevine for a sprouting discussion. Never answer a question with a simple yes or no. Pay attention to what inspires them. Pay attention to what gives more detail in their responses, then capitalize on it. Be sure to show that I am four-dimensional, funny, intelligent, wise, and compassionate.
That's right. And make sure to engage with your competition as well. You must show your confidence even to them.
I sigh and nod my head, which causes my mom to raise an agitated eyebrow.
Don't act like I'm asking too much of you. You're not doing this family any favors. You are simply fulfilling what you owe to us after all we have done for you. We fed you, bathed you, allowed you to enjoy living off the fortune that we worked hard for. Above all else, you're simply alive. And now, you'll even get to rise up and have the grand opportunity to become a Rashidi citizen. Your lucky gain will trickle down to us as the greatest payment.
I nod my head. You're right, Mom. I'll try my best. My mother shakes her head.
Correction. There is no try. Your best will have results.
An hour and a half later, me and my parents are sitting at a table surrounded by fancy dressed people and upscale decor. Beautiful centerpieces float in the center of each circular table. Orbots hover around while holding trays of colorful champagne and finger foods. As if waiting for the perfect entrance, the sons and daughters of the Pearlines all walk through the entrance in pairs. A total of 8 couples with an arm entangled with their partner's arm walk through with bright smiles on their face. The girls have beautiful flowing dresses that look carefully hand-stitched, and the guys have on suits that fit them with a charm of importance. My mother leans into me before speaking in a low tone.
Don't worry. The Pearline daughters aren't their dates. They all simply run in the same groups.
I look at each couple with hidden envy as they filter inside, grabbing everyone's attention. As my eyes glide over each and every one of them, my heart abruptly forces my eyes to stop on one guy's face in particular. Whoa, his smile seems to stand out so much more among all of them. Those brown eyes, that silky jet black hair, and his tan skin isn't even what makes him handsome. He just has an inner glow about him that I can't quite pinpoint, nor look away from. As he gets closer to our table while still interlocked with the Pearline daughter, I hold my breath without my mind's permission. 3 of the couples pass by with smiles and head nods at everyone around them, then he finally passes. As I get a whiff of his scented cologne from his passing movement, his eyes glance in my direction like an arrow piercing me still and dumbfounded.
Yes, him. He's perfect.
My mother's voice snaps me out of my trance. I glance at her and follow her eyes to the last Pearline son who approaches our table, then walks off. He's a tall one and a little on the thinner side. He resembles someone who physically belongs on a basketball team, but was never quite cut out for it. Over his eyes are seeing glasses and a smile on his lips that looks more forced than those around him. He wasn't unattractive at all. but I was in no way pulled into him like I was the other Pearline son moments ago. As if proud of the sight in front of her, my mother nods to herself with a smile as she speaks.
He's the very anti-social type, which is perfect. You won't have too much competition for his attention like the rest. I hear he's odd and despised by a few who aren't paid to hang out with him. He must be nearly desperate to find someone who will understand him. That person will be you.
But I mutter out as I look over at the previous Pearline son, then back at the one my mother has her sights on. My mother notices my glances and shakes her head.
Don't be ridiculous. That one is far too out of your league, and every young girl here has their eyes set on him.
I look at the handsome guy again as he laughs and shakes hands with someone greeting him. A girl my age approaches him, followed by 3 more wearing giggles and smiles. With a heavy heart, I nod my head at my mother's words a few moments ago as both of our eyes go back to the other Pearline son.
This is an important natural lesson that you must carry with you. Humans are nothing but God's wild animals with the capacity to think more logically. But just like in the wild, the shark-toothed carnivores will attack and feed on the slow and the weak, not the strong. It's not about our wants or pride. It's about logic and needs. We are a family of carnivores who must eat to survive. Now get up and go introduce yourself to our sheep.
With a hidden sigh, but a large gulp, I stand up and allow my legs to carry me over towards him. He's now standing alone after his fake date sauntered off to socialize. He lets out a yawn as he turns and takes a seat at his empty table. Every step I take feels heavier than the last, as if my feet are being weighed down by my nervousness. I don't talk to boys. I never have. They never look my way at school, and if for some strange reason they did pay me any attention, my mother has forbidden me to give them the time of day. So this entire date just makes no sense to me at all. Well, I guess the fact that they would get something out of me dating now makes more sense. But anyways, now all of a sudden, me, the goddess and expert of love, has to make a guy interested in falling in love with me in one night. Oh, come on. I finally approach the table as he projects an electronic book from his wrist reel and begins reading. He doesn't notice me as I stand off to the side of him. I look back at my mother, who gives me a nudging look. I clasp my hands tightly together and open my mouth to speak. 3 hours later, the hard sting from my mother's palm to my face sends me to the floor of our high-rise condo. As soon as our front door to our home slid open, my mother wasted no time unleashing her anger at me. The dinner party wasn't even close to a success, and it took all my mother's strength to effortlessly keep it together up until this point.
You finally had the opportunity to be useful to this family, and you squandered it.
My mother yells her words at me in a tone that's shaken up by pure rage as my father silently and slowly walks with his cane towards their bedroom. As usual, he allows my mother to deal with these things, so he decides to turn in for the night. I look up at my mother from the cold marble floor, ready to apologize for the 100th time, but her loud words cut me
You had
off.
one important and simple job. Your freeloading in this house is over. Do you hear me? You have a week to get a job or you're out of here. I don't care if you aren't 18 yet. I'm not doing this with you anymore. If you aren't contributing to this family, then you have no place in this family.
But Mom, I tried talking to him. He just wasn't that interested in me.
Excuses. That's all I hear from you. You didn't fight for his eyes. You even had the audacity, the nerve, to bring up the name Notorious Eve like an idiot. She may not be real, but the Pearlings are negatively attached to that folktale garbage.
I didn't mean for the conversation topic to be on Notorious Eve. It just happened. He was the one who steered it there. I didn't want to be rude and change the subject, so I went with it. In all honesty, I think he did it on purpose. He saw right through what I was trying to do and poked fun at me by bringing her up. I'm sorry, it was out of my control. My mother silently stares at me with a calm yet cold expression on her wrinkled face. Without warning, she lunges at me, then grabs a fistful of my dress before giving it a hard yank. The top half of my dress gets violently torn as she lets out a single ear-piercing scream. Puzzled and scared, I immediately hold the dress tightly together as she finally releases me with a shove. Still panting, but suddenly eerily calm, she then holds her palm out to me.
Give me back the jewelry and take off that pearl hairnet. If you want them back, you'll buy them back from me. You'll also be paying me back for this dress that your actions made me destroy.
I stare back up at my mother and let out a disheartened sigh. My heart wants me to cry, but my brain won't dare let a tear drop. Crying is completely unacceptable to my parents no matter how much emotional turmoil I may be going through. Why does she have to treat me like this? Suddenly, a different voice loudly booms through the room, catching me off guard.
Hey, Cassidy, I'm going home for the night. You have you a good weekend.
After a blink of an eye, I'm no longer on a cold marbled floor. I'm now at work sitting at my desk in my office 15 years later. Those loud words from my coworker Otis instantly snatched me from the memories of my childhood. Still puzzled and alarmed, I finally respond to him. Thanks. You have a good weekend as well. It isn't unusual for my mind to wander. I often find myself somewhere else entirely without even trying. The last thing I remember before diving into my mind are the words that came from the radio station that I'm listening to. Breaking news announced that the Pearline son I found interest in so long ago died suddenly within the past hour. Apparently, him and his wife were on their way to a vacation on planet Earth when their Sky Access vehicle malfunctioned and lost oxygen. Nobody could get to them in time to save their SOS chips. Technology might be great now, but it's nowhere near perfect. My name is Cassidy Monty. I'm a 31-year-old Saturn African ringer, and I've stayed in the city of Burlow Heights on planet Saturn my entire life. As if my childhood wasn't already screwed up enough, 5 years ago the universe decided to kill me. Like many humans who have died, my SOS chip was put in a ringer, which has resulted in how I'm alive today. The universe even decided that my death would be a ridiculous one. During my last few minutes of being human, I accidentally unknowingly spilled my cup of water on my kitchen floor. I was distracted by an idiotic phone call that gave me stress-induced tunnel vision. At one point, I turned to walk, but ended up slipping on the water like a dramatic cartoon character. After a losing battle with gravity, I got a hard crack on my skull. In that instant, it was officially lights out for my human body forever. Now, I work every day as a ringer counselor at a Watchman facility. This place is partnered with Marco Vital Force, where all newly activated ringers temporarily reside to adjust to their new bodies. For 12 hours a day, my title as a counselor is to teach these new ringers how to be ringers, or listen to them whine like crybabies. Boo-hoo, it's weird, I don't need to breathe anymore. Boo-hoo, I can't enjoy my favorite foods anymore. Boo-hoo, I have electricity running through wires instead of blood running through veins. All I can silently think to myself is, who cares? These ex-humans decided to get their SOS chip put in their brains to become ringers when they die, just like I did. Everyone is told what to expect and warned about the changes, just like I was. Everyone is given months to decide if an SOS chip is what they really want. Then, when their ringer activation finally comes, these ex-humans suddenly become psychiatric patients for a few months. After my own ringer activation, I adjusted quickly, so I don't understand what the big deal is. Well, I guess I should head home too. I say this to myself after taking a glance at the time on my wrist reel. With a swipe of my hand, the computer screen vanishes, and I stand up with annoyance. Usually leaving work is a good thing, right? But before you can be content, you must first conquer the hurdle of rush hour. Every day on my way to work and on my way home, I sit in an hour of hover vehicle traffic for a drive that's supposed to take 25 minutes. Any intelligent person would assume that a population full of flying cars should be able to avoid traffic entirely, but that's not the case. Only the filthy rich who own the expensive vehicles get approved for sky access. The rest of us just hover a few inches above the ground, thus not solving the problem of traffic at all. Why are corporations so insane to have matching starting and ending times for employees? Is it just to make us all miserable? Are they trying to mentally drain us even after we clock out so that we have no fight left in us when we return to work the next day? I might not be human anymore, but my mental exhaustion is still up and kicking. My annoyance rises as my car hovers at yet another complete stop. The sound of grumpy drivers all around me continues to sound off their horns at whoever or whatever. If I could let out a huge dramatic sigh right now, I would. But unfortunately, like every ringer in the galaxy, sighing requires an air supply that we no longer have or need. My eyes travel up to a digital billboard advertising a popular podcast. From the graphics they chose, I can tell without even reading the words who the topic of discussion will be tonight. The graphic seamlessly loops a shadowy long-haired figure with a coat blowing in the wind. The facial features are hidden by the darkness of her famous cowboy hat. It's as if you can still sense those striking eyes looking over the entire city. Society just can't get enough of that elusive lady they call Notorious E. She's known in the low-life community as a phantom hero. To the regular citizens, she's a renegade living an untamed life. As for her enemies, she's nothing but an audacious thief with a death wish. It's said that Notorious E can effortlessly take down anyone with so much speed it will give you whiplash just from watching her. 2 guns and a palm-sized magnet hook blade that returns after she throws it. She's a force to be reckoned with. According to the apparent witnesses of her and the artistic renditions, Eve is extraordinarily beautiful, which is of course convenient. Who's to say that in actuality, she's just a plain everyday woman whose looks and actions are simply dramatized for a better story. The image of Notorious Eve that's been burned into everyone's heads is basically a Saturn African woman with long, dark blue, wavy, kinky curls that fall down her back like a mermaid. Her pupils glow multiple blue colors, and her glistening brown skin looks almost edible. The top layer of her clothes is a black decorative long coat with the sleeves intentionally shredded and the bottom tattered. Witnesses claim that when she moves around, the loose pieces of fabric dance around her, bewitching anyone lucky enough to see it. The jacket even has its own lore, if you can believe it. It's said she stole the coat from a Perline after getting into an intense and epic fight with them. She then, supposedly, intentionally gave the royal jacket her own style as a big screw you to whatever Perline she snatched it from. Anyone who decides to make their own artistic rendition of Notorious Eve isn't even allowed to mimic the Perline jacket aspect, due to how, well, disrespectful it is to Saturn's royalty. Just imagine burning a country's flag in the face of its country's easily offended, self-conscious leaders. Yeah, that's how serious this thing has been taken. Hello, I'm home. I announced to the empty, unmoved silence that my apartment was likely in all day. This place always feels like an eerily silent tomb, so the first thing I do when I walk in is announce my presence. As I stand at the entrance, I look over at my kitchen floor. If I had a heart, it would be racing as I currently tightly ball my fist. Suddenly, vivid images of me losing my balance hit me like flashes of harsh light. I close my eyes and quickly look away with a panicked shake of my head. It's been 5 years, and this is the only progress I've made. Considering this kitchen is where I lost my life, I've developed some form of odd phobia of it. I can't even look at it, but I've been working on it, slowly. After a purple flash of my ringer pupils, my TV screen appears and instantly fills the atmosphere with some much-needed form of life. I make my way to the living room quickly to relax in what's become my safe space. It's that time of the month to freshen up that long chestnut French braid style that I haven't changed for many years. One day I wear it in a bun, and the next day the long braids hang over one of my shoulders. To be honest, I've always wanted color in my hair, but to this day the echoes of my mother's disapproving words still haunt me. There was one time 2 years ago when I decided to try something different by putting colorful jewelry in my braids. Let's just say that for that entire day, that hair jewelry made me feel like highlighted words on a sheet of paper. Even though not one person cared as much as I convinced myself they did, I just couldn't stop hearing my mother's voice all day.
Only tramps, trash, and insecure people need to commercially enhance what they were born with for attention. And that includes inking your skin and coloring your hair.
I know now that my mother's words are a load of bull, but I can't help but to still apply them to the way I live my life at times. Her and my father are deceased and buried on some floating rock in space, yet they still feel very present. At random moments, especially at home, I feel like my mother is a cloud hovering over me, dictating my every move. My parents were entirely against SOS chips and anyone becoming ringers. They claimed it was a sin to go against God's plans by living longer than you should. They secretly hated ringers along with those who associated with them, but unfortunately in their professional career, a few important people had SOS chips and family members who were ringers. They always made sure to keep their disapproving thoughts to themselves and at home.
These ringers are going to be the subject of God's wrath one day. You just wait and see.
The past voice of my mother's angered tone in response to a Rio call she was on echoes in my head. Some poor phone solicitor who came across our family's death plan took it upon themselves to reach out to my mother's Rio. They were suggesting that my parents at least got me an SOS chip implant, if not for the whole family. The words coming from the person on our Rio condo speakers linked to my mother's Rio echoed off our kitchen walls. My mother's face tightened up with anger at the woman's words.
Ringers are the devil's project. They aren't human, they're his soldiers. If you ever call my home soliciting this foolishness again, I will have your company sued for an invasion of privacy. Goodbye.
After that comment and with a swipe of her Rio, my mother ends the call before ordering me to get dressed for church. The moment I turned 18, I got full control over my own death plan. 2 years later, after my 18th birthday, and without telling my parents, I signed up for an SOS chip implant with the money that I saved up. I guess I figured maybe I could give myself more time to live a better life than the one they provided. Or maybe I simply did it because they didn't want me to. It was the first thing I ever did to disobey my parents, and up until their death, they never even knew about it. Most people don't even know a person is a ringer unless we willingly and openly share that information. Marco Vital Force gave ringers skin that feels soft, eyes that have moisture to them, and hair that comes out of the scalp of our heads. We have facial expressions, sexual needs, emotions, senses, all the works. The only tell is a flash of our ringer pupils when we receive notifications, but even that can be turned off at will. After finishing my hair, my TV continues to blare in the background as my eyes are focused on my Rio screen projecting from my wrist. Every day it's the same when I get home. I scroll through the social media app called Social Feeds. People say and do anything for attention. It can be entertaining sometimes, especially the fake encounter stories about Notorious Eve. I suddenly receive an alert on my Rio informing me of fresh news. In that same moment, the program on my TV cuts off and switches to a live news coverage.
This just in. A Sky Access bus has fallen and crashed into the Regos Electric's main headquarters in the city of Neon Shores.
I snap my head up at the TV, landing my eyes on the news reporter who just spoke. A Sky Access bus just crashed into Regal's main headquarters? If that Sky Access bus fell from the sky, that Regal's building must be obliterated. I swipe my Rio screen off and pay attention to the report from the newscaster.
Thousands of SOS chips can be heard echoing and chirping off, indicating that many humans are currently dead. Marco Vital Force has deployed hundreds of SOS chip extractor bots to recover the bodies. It will be a challenge for the SOS chip extractors to reach all the bodies in time before the SOS chips become futile. As it is commonly known, all deceased humans must be prepared for SOS extraction within an hour of death. If failed, many will not be transferred into a ringer.
As the newscaster speaks, footage of Regals in flames gets shown. The once tall and beautiful building in the center of a campus is now nothing of what it once was. Ironic how Marco Vital Force is Regal's Electric's competition, yet here Marco Vital Force is using their technology to come to their rescue. The newscaster continues speaking while the camera circles the area. The sound of possibly thousands of eerie high-pitched SOS chirps continue to go off. Hearing so many death chirps at once nearly gave me the chills, especially knowing that they likely won't be able to recover all of the human bodies in time.
For the deceased humans within the rubble without SOS chips and the ringers who were destroyed, their families will be reached out to at a later time. The priority right now is to retrieve as many SOS chip carriers as possible.
Wow. First the son of a Perlane passes away, and now this? My reel chirps off a tune indicating that I'm receiving a video call. My pupils do a single flash of purple as a screen pops up in my right ringer eye. As usual, a grayed out video of who's sending a video call request shows itself. It's my human boss, Estella, and she appears to also be in her living room sitting on her couch. Her expression is wide-eyed and shocked as she stuffs her face with potato chips. Saturn Cherokee. She has beautiful tan skin and jet black hair, which she always wears in a ponytail. Right now, however, her hair is wet and brushed to the back as if she just got done showering. I finally tap at my second reel behind my ear to answer the call, causing the screen to go to color. I'm then transported into her living room as if I were standing right in front of her. I finally sarcastically speak to her. This call wouldn't possibly be related to what's going on the news right now, is it? Estella shakes her head in bewilderment as she looks from me then at her TV.
I know it's your weekend off, but I need you to come in for an emergency meeting tomorrow. I already know what's coming.
What's coming? What are you talking about?
I can't believe this is really happening.
She whispers this to herself as if for a moment it was lost to her that she was still speaking to me. Estella shakes her head.
Be at Watchman tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Estella's sudden end to the call abruptly pushes me back into my own living room. Did she just hang up on me? Well, that was a cryptic goodbye. A few hours later, my inner alarm goes off alerting me that it's now 6 a.m. the next day. One of the downsides to being a ringer is that I'm constantly at alert with no breaks. We no longer have the fortune of closing our eyes to rest our mind. Our days are no longer a plural of days. They're now just one single day that never seems to end. All night long I was watching the news until the sun rose once again. From a human's perspective it seems insane, but you honestly get used to it. After signaling my alarm off, I stand up from the couch and walk to my living room closet to change into a new outfit. An hour later I'm walking into the Watchman facility conference room where I'm greeted by a crowded room full of other counselors. Estella walks to the front of the room on top of the small podium, then clears her throat into the microphone. The room that was once buzzing finally goes silent.
As you all saw last night, a tragic event has taken place in the city of Neon Shores. Nearly 1,800 lives have been lost, but 2,194 lives have also been saved. With that being said, I'll just cut to the chase. As you all know, it takes 6 months for a human's ringer to be created at a Marco Vital Force, along with making sure that the ringer body accepts the SOS chip in that time. The city of Neon Shores is planning on building another Watchman facility to help take on the substantial amount of new ringer customers. Our 2 Burlow Heights Watchman facilities have been requested for counselor volunteers to uproot their lives for this purpose. I'm going to need at least 8 of you to move down to Neon Shores on a permanent basis in 5 months. You will be working at the second Neon Shores Watchman facility building that's on its way to being built. I understand that it's a lot to take in, and that it's a request that will take a while to digest. With that being said, I'll need your answers by the end of the month. The maximum number of volunteers requested from our branch is 12, but at least 8 will be a good start as well. If you have any questions, feel free to approach me and ask what you need to know. Thank you. And please enjoy the tour of the apartment building.
A large screen appears behind Estella, and it then digitally pulls us in, giving us a 3D tour of a future new Watchman facility. Soon after, we're being given a tour of the apartment in the area we would be living in. I guess this is Estella's way of enticing us with the idea of living there. Heck, if I get the right answers, I don't mind moving. Nothing and nobody is keeping me here anyway, so why not? I hate my apartment. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have friends, and my aunts and uncles couldn't give a crap less about me. After my parents passed away from old age, my other family members distanced themselves even more from me. I don't even think, no, I'm sure that my family doesn't even know that I'm a ringer, and it's been 5 years. My point is that I have no reasons to make choices in my life based on those around me because there was hardly anyone there to miss. For once, I'll just shrug and go wherever the wind blows. Because to be honest, I can't allow my parents, who no longer have any power over me, keep me hostage anymore. I've been dead even before my human body died thanks to my parents. And now it's time to take a new step forward. I look around me at all the other counselors curiously taking in the area. Like me, they're probably most likely thinking things through, but unlike me, I've already made up my mind. I look towards Estella, who stands in the center of the digitized living room with a scenic view. Without a wasted moment, I approach her and grab her attention with my next words. So, Estella, how soon can I move exactly?